It is 10 a.m. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. In NFL news this morning, New Orleans Saints offensive tackle Ryan Ramczyk is set to miss the 2024 NFL season after the Saints placed him on the reserve physically unable to perform list. The 30-year-old has dealt with a knee injury since last year. Nashville Soccer Club hits the road tomorrow night to take on Philadelphia Union. Nashville trying to end a 5-game losing skid before the MLS regular season pauses for Leagues Cup. Pre-game coverage on The Zone starts at 6 p.m. Kickoff is at 6:30. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Oh, you made it to a Friday. Congratulations. Morale is through the roof. The weather outside is not oppressive. It feels fantastic. We've got you for the next 3 hours, and we are excited about it. 615-737-1045. Get in there. If you want, chime in on the phones. You got the F&M Bank chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. If you would like to hang out with us, wave hi to the people on Zone TV. Lucas Jackson, Lucas Panzica, myself, we're with you until 1 o'clock. Coach Mack will be here. Don Davenport will be here. And they'll bring up the level of professionalism as is the custom.
I hit every green light on the way into work today.
Oh.
And it's the last Friday before the start of Titans training camp. So it is a beautiful day in Music City.
So how are you handling your last week? I mean, you don't do the training camp practices on the weekends like I will, but how do you handle the last week before it begins?
I just go about my days. I'm not doing. Are you doing something special?
Well, yeah, we got a whole weekend full of things. Got a lot of things to do this weekend.
Like what?
Well, you got the party tonight. Looking forward to the party tonight.
Ah, yes.
It's
everybody's invited. The address is.
Listen, it's not my house. Yeah, we got a big 30th birthday. My girlfriend Grace is a triplet. Their 3 birthdays are today, the day before mine. So we're throwing a party for them. That'll be a big time. We've got some stuff going on tomorrow, and then I will cede myself to the football season, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm fired up. Jackson told me that I've been a little more irritable lately. I think it's just because I'm ready to get back to work. Like, we've had too much free time. We've had too much openness in our schedule. And while I make jokes about the idea of, oh, sure, I'll take a January off or something like that if they miss the playoffs. Like, I want meaningful football again. I want it to matter. I want there to be games of consequence. I want there to be high-level quarterback play. I want to see L'Jarius Sneed. And instead of hearing about the lore of L'Jarius Sneed and what he looked like in a Chiefs uniform, I'd like to see him in a Titans uniform practicing. Devondre Sweat, I want to see what he can do. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. I'm ready for football season. So, last Friday of non-football season related discussion, though we do have some football talk to start with. How are we feeling about Brian Callahan? We haven't talked a ton about him since the hire, really, because there's been so many different pieces and parts. There's been so many different things flying around that make... I just saw the comment in the F&M Back chat about your skincare routine.
It's good stuff from Eric.
Oh, it's okay, Joan Rivers. We'll get you through it. So, Callahan, how's morale? What are the vibes? Do you have any thoughts about your head coach, who is a first-time head coach and a first-time as the final decision maker? We're not going to say a first-time play caller because he's called plays. He's been a part of the play calling process. We'll explain to you what the play calling process in Cincinnati exactly sounds like if you didn't hear an interview that we did a couple of months ago around that. Was this before he was hired that we talked to Dave Lapham when we were just talking about like candidates for the job?
Yes. Dave, you were out this day. And this was when we knew that Brian Callahan was being formally interviewed by the Titans. And we were doing that exercise. We were vetting every Titans head coaching candidate. And we brought in Dave Lapham to give us some insight on Brian Callahan, who ended up being the pick.
So we'll hear Dave Lapham, for what it's worth, is the Bengals radio analyst. So on all the different things, and we're going to take a look at some tendencies, how he might compare to the guy that he most recently worked for, Zach Taylor, though he's worked under a bunch of different head coaches in his career. It's just that Cincinnati has been his most prominent role and his most successful role to date, especially when you have a Super Bowl trip, if not a Super Bowl win for the Cincinnati Bengals, and how big a part of the development process of Joe Burrow and the way that offense really took flight. So we'll talk about Brian Callahan through that context, but how are we feeling about him as a play caller? It doesn't seem like the fan base has any qualms, any worries. They're just happy to see receivers. They're happy to have depth at receiver. They feel good about Levis. They like the way that Brian Callahan is not actively the aggressor at press conferences, I guess, and that he's willing to disclose stuff that seems pretty, I don't know, seems pretty easy to talk about unless you want to go out of your way to make it state secret type of stuff. Like, for example, playing starters in the preseason. Yeah, we think it's a good idea. We didn't do it last year because Joe was hurt. We plan to do it this year if everybody's available and things like that. Seems like Titans fans are pretty happy with the situation. They like the way that he's handled the offseason program. They have no reason to think otherwise. And now with some of you having the ability to attend practice, you'll get a firsthand look at how these people can conduct themselves. If you've been to training camp practices in the past, I don't know how closely do you actually watch drills when we go out there? You know, like what the quarterback coach is doing and instructing the quarterbacks to do, what the technique. Bill Callahan has obviously been a huge focal point, so I feel like I have paid closer attention to offensive line drills this offseason than I have in years past. But are you ever curious about the kind of direction that they're given? How closely do you kind of get to that when we're out there for the next couple of months?
Yeah, it depends on the coach. I think there's a lot of different places you can look this time with Tyke Tolbert working the receivers for the first time. Of course, Bill Callahan's going to continue to be a main attraction. So, yes, depending on the coach and the importance of the position, I think there are a couple different position groups that are going to have bigger crowds around them than usual, and there will be attention paid to how the coach is communicating things because the general on the practice field communication is going to have a pretty different feel to it, right, than in the Vrabel era.
Yes, one would think. Now, if who he might become, who he is most going to closely resemble as an NFL head coach, we won't know until he actually starts coaching games, until we see how this process looks in preseason operation, once we get to the regular season, things like that. But if I ask Titans fans which coach they would most like Brian Callahan to resemble, I don't know how many would immediately say Zach Taylor, because Zach Taylor is thought of well. We talked about the way that they were able to problem solve as a coaching staff when Jamar Chase got hurt, missed some time, had to figure out different ways to generate the offense. We talked about them losing Joe Burrow and how they were able to put that together and make it a winning product. It was 9-8, even though they finished in fourth place in the division. But I don't think that, like, if I ask Titans fans, all right, who do you most want Brian Callahan to be? Among active head coaches, who do you like out there? How many do you think would say, well, yeah, I'd take Zach Taylor? Because I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think that's the thinking among fans. I think Titans fans want Brian Callahan to be Brian Callahan. Like when we look at what Zach Taylor has done, do we say Zach Taylor is good because Zach Taylor resembles Sean McVay? No, Zach Taylor has become a good head coach and now is sprouting his own coaching tree.
We don't say that he resembles Sean McVay, but we talk about the McVay's system. We talk about the Shanahan system. We talk about the way that their offenses resemble one another. And we understand fundamentally, or at least, I think fundamentally at a baseline level, like what this offense is going to look like. Fair to expect that the Titans are going to be a 3 wide receiver offense for a good portion of a good percentage of their snaps next year. But in terms of aggressiveness, different tendencies, how do you handle the analytical components? How would you describe the kind of coach that you want Brian Callahan to be? I guess if we let you do with the NCAA video, it's not the NCAA video game. That's how I show my age, right?
College football 25.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for me. Is it okay though if I just keep calling it the
just
NCAA
call it
video?
NCAA.
Yeah, everybody will know what you're talking about.
No, but I feel like there's a certain component of like young people that are going to be like, "Shut up, old man! You don't know what you're talking about." It's
there's not.
College football 25.
The big deal about the video game is not being made by like 18-year-olds. It's being made by
30-year-olds.
Millennials. Yes, millennials that grew up being obsessed with this game.
Anyway, so if you got to create a coach in a lab, understanding that you have Brian Callahan and you know you're starting to get to know Brian Callahan's personality, but you got to adjust all the metrics on how aggressive versus how passive he is, how much he factors in the numerical data that he's provided versus how much is kind of just, all right, this is a judgment call. And you have to have some kind of balance of both. I don't know who that create a coach would most resemble among active NFL coaches. I think it's just a curious exercise.
On the F&M Bank chat, Emmett says...
You just want to get closer and closer to that, don't you?
Emmett says, I want Brian Callahan to be his own coach.
Sure. And I think that's fair.
We talked about the Dave Lapham audio.
Yes.
Should we play the Dave Lapham audio about Brian Callahan?
Is it back there?
Because, I think to be a successful head coach in the National Football League, you can have a coordinator, you can have a play caller. There's a few head coaches in the NFL that do call plays, but there are still coordinators that call plays. And in Brian's case, I'm sure he would have a coordinator in mind that he would probably empower to call the plays, or it might be a joint effort. And, make no mistake about it. Zach Taylor calls the plays, but Brian Callahan is part of the dialogue with Zach Taylor every single play until, time doesn't allow any more debate or conversation about it, and then Zach Taylor will make a decision. But Brian Callahan has tremendous input on a play-by-play basis, even though he's not the voice that is going into the helmet of the quarterback in terms of the actual play call. And in terms of game planning, it's a big part of it. A large part of it is his baby. Now, he's got his other offensive coaches contributing. There's no question about that. And Zach Taylor, gets his fingers and thumb into it a little bit as well. But Brian's the coordinator of that, putting all of that together. And he's done a pretty darn good job. I think, too, from a football standpoint, a head coach, in my mind, in this era of football, has to be able to deliver a clear message. And Brian Callahan is as good a communicator as I've worked with. The guy is unbelievable in terms of having a message and being able to communicate that message. And then the other thing is relationship building. In today's era, that's a very, very important thing with today's athlete. And Brian Callahan is unbelievably talented in terms of his people skills, building relationships with, players, coaches, everybody in the organization. As far as a football coach, he's immensely talented. As far as being a human being, he's even more so. The dude is just one hell of a good guy, no matter what profession he's in.
All right. So that's glowing praise from Bengals radio analyst Dave Lapham, and that's before Brian Callahan was hired here as the Titans head coach, when we were just talking about candidates who had interviewed for the job. We'll get back to that later on in the show. The ESPN list of top 100 athletes of the 21st century came out yesterday. Jackson, what's the game that we're going to play coming up next?
We're going to play Guess That Number. Guess That Ranking.
Okay, with all the excitement,
very thought out.
I was hoping for a little more substance there for the audience, for some clarity, so they might be able to participate and get an advanced, maybe start thinking about the X. What do you mean, okay, so?
I can explain the game when we come back after this break.
Oh, my God, go to break. right. So fundamentally, people don't seem to understand how to play this game. Because if I tell you that there's one, because Jackson did a hideous job trying to explain the game that we're getting ready to play.
We did a hideous job.
No. I threw it to you. You crashed the car into the side of the road spectacularly with a spectacular level of efficiency that has yet to be seen on this show. It's the most efficient thing in the history of the show, how badly you did that tease.
But we are co-pilots. You eloquently told me during the break, and co-pilots take the blame 50-50. So it was your fault.
Yes, it's my fault for trusting you. You're right. Correct.
Totally true. All right, you want to learn how to play the game?
Yes, ranking the top 100 professional athletes of the 21st century. Now, when I say the 21st century, who does that automatically eliminate? Ladies and gentlemen?
Bo Jackson.
Not Bo Jackson.
Not in the 21st century.
And Michael Jordan doesn't count either.
Michael Jordan technically
He does not count in
Wizards
the 21st.
Jordan.
I understand that,
No,
Jackson, but
Wizards
Wizards
does not
Jordan
count.
is not one of the 100 greatest athletes of all time.
No.
Is it sad that I was only alive for Wizards Jordan?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I was like,
No, it's not like
One.
we remember the heyday of the
Yeah.
Chicago Bulls. Like my most famous Michael Jordan memory is Space Jam.
yeah, same.
You know, so like we see his highlights the same way that you see his highlights. It's just, LeBron is 40 years old and continues to do it year after year after year. Anyway, of the 21st century, so no Michael Jordan, no Bo Jackson. Let's start there.
Terry Bradshaw also eliminated.
Yes, Bart Starr, not
Roger
part of the
Staubach,
game.
not going to be in this one. Emmett Smith, probably not.
Okay, so how do you want to play the game?
Okay, so I have 10 names here, and I have their rankings next to them. I'm going to give you either a range or you're going to have to guess the exact for a couple of these.
All right, so do we get, what do we get? 2 points if we guess the exact ranking?
Yes.
And 1 point? Let's do it that way. Let's actually score this thing. Let's make it competitive.
And what? The loser has to wear the. Okay,
loser
go
has
ahead.
to wear the helmet of shame for the SEC stat of the day. Next segment.
Ooh.
Okay. Where is the helmet of shame? Is it back there with you? I need a silver Sharpie to write helmet of shame on that damn helmet. And we'll do that later
believe it's
on.
in the prod room.
All right. We'll find it later. So, start wherever you want on your list. Who do you want us to start the guessing with?
Starting to hate this music.
You are.
All right, this is going to be a question about range. So what range of the top 100 athletes of the 21st century is Derek Jeter in?
You want us to give like a numerical, like 20s, 30s, 40s?
Yes, 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s.
Now, this is international, right? It's not just American athletes.
Yes, you're correct. Just
Yes.
international athletes.
Then I would put Derek Jeter in the 20s.
Well, you shouldn't do that because now I immediately know that he's not in the 20s, so I'm going to have a better chance to guess this. I'm going to say that Derek Jeter is in the 50s.
That is correct. Got it right. Derek Jeter comes in at 53
1 point
on
me.
the top 100 rankings.
0 for Lucas. Unfortunate.
Greatly overestimated the greatness of Derek Jeter, I guess.
I mean, was Jeter I know Jeter is the more famous player. He's the captain. He's, good soldier, all these different things. He's now doing the Peyton Manning career tour, and he's also one of the worst Major League Baseball presidents I think an organization has ever seen. That whole Derek Jeter Marlin stint is one of the more brushed under the rug disasters.
Yeah, it's got
sports.
nothing to do with what he was as an athlete.
No, sure. So Derek Jeter in the 50s, I think that makes sense because, I almost think of A-Rod as a better athlete. Is A-Rod on the list of names that you're getting ready to give us? Because I'd just be curious to know where Alex Rodriguez.
He is not.
He's not on the list at all?
He's not on my list.
Okay. I'll look up where he is relative to Derek Jeter because in my head, I think of A-Rod as the better athlete, even though Derek Jeter is the more, heralded player.
But you can't be pulling up this top 100.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fair. I'll do that later.
Speaking of Peyton Manning, where does the sheriff land on this list? So this is an exact guess, so I will give you the range. He's anywhere from 25 to 35.
I'll go first since you went first last time. 27.
31.
Incorrect. Buck was the closest. He was 26.
Oh.
How do you want to score that?
I'll give myself 1 point. There was an exact yes, but I got close. Closest to the pin.
Closest wins.
Yeah, if you get it exact, you get 2 points. Closest to the pin gets 1, if neither of you get it.
Peyton, a top 30 athlete of the 21st century. I accept that.
Now, before we move on, though, I feel like we should talk about these athletes rather than just moving on and guessing the names and numbers. Peyton Manning is not a superior, he is a superior athlete because whatever he might have lacked in the athleticism that we associate with quarterbacks like Mahomes or Josh Allen, right? He was so able to manipulate things on the field, to run no-huddle offenses, to kind of tailor his play calling, essentially. He's one of the first play calling quarterbacks that way, where we talk about Aaron Rodgers getting hurt last year for the Jets and Nathaniel Hackett having just nothing for Zach Wilson to try and answer the questions to the test to. Peyton Manning was the answer to the test every time.
We talk about quarterback being the hardest position to play in sports with the most responsibility, especially in team sports, at least. If not for Tom Brady, is Peyton kind of the consensus GOAT?
No.
Who is?
Joe Montana. Joe Montana.
Peyton broke pretty much all of Montana's records.
Winning. Peyton famously, Peyton would be higher on this list if he won at the rate of Joe Montana or Tom Brady.
What, 3 Super Bowls?
No, he has more, right? Doesn't Montana have 5 or 6?
No. Montana won, I believe, 3, and then Steve Young won 2.
We need to double check this. I feel like we're doing a grave injustice to the name of Joe Montana.
He's a 4-time champ.
4-time champs. Okay. So, still, Peyton Manning won 2, and Peyton didn't really win the second, right? He was on that team that Von Miller won the Super Bowl for. So, on the list of key accomplishments, and I'm just control F-ing my way to the names. I'm not looking at the rankings until we've gone to the player. Peyton Manning, key accomplishments, Hall of Famer in 2021, 2-time Super Bowl champion, 5-time NFL MVP, which is the most all time. So I think that's how you're projecting there. 14-time Pro Bowler, 7-time first team All-Pro. So it's not like he wasn't a surefire or a first ballot Hall of Famer even before he went to Denver, right? He would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer with just the one, which is the thing that we hit Eli over the head with is Hall of Famer, not Hall of Famer. Of course he's a Hall of Famer. He has 2 Super Bowl rings.
He's easily one of the top 3 quarterbacks to ever play the game.
I will accept that.
Easily for me.
Although Rodgers...
Easily for me.
We'll see if he wins a Super Bowl. We will see. All right. You can interact if you want to with the list, 615-737-1045. You can chime in on the F&M Bank chat with your guesses. Jackson, who's next on the list? I'm up 2-0.
I would like for you both to take a gamble at interpreting this next person on the list of the top 100 athletes. Shohei Ohtani. Where does he land?
Oh.
Give me a range.
Did you try to make an interpreter joke?
I did, and I think I did it successfully.
I appreciate the effort.
It was pretty clunky. We score Jackson's jokes on here on a regular basis, or at least I do when he makes too many in my ear. I would give it a 6.5 out of 10 for the effort.
That's my best of the week. So.
It is.
It's fascinating because Shohei is still relatively young in his career.
Mm-hmm. And hasn't done any winning of consequence. Which is kind of the Mike Trout argument.
I mean, he hasn't won a title, right?
This is a range question, by the way.
Right. But just how he's talked about as a two-way player in the modern game, I will put Shohei in the 20s.
I'll play Price is Right and go one over. I'll put him in the 10s to teens.
You're both wrong. He's in the 60s. Number 62 on the list.
Is it just because he hasn't won anything?
Most likely, yes.
Oh, my God. That is the most sports talk. No, that's terrible. Shohei Ohtani is see, this is why these lists piss me off, okay? This is why they're designed to piss me off. Is Shohei Ohtani a better athlete, by the sense of the word athlete, than Peyton Manning?
Oh, I do think career accomplishments have to come into play.
Sure, but I'm saying, I understand.
And the career accomplishments are so all the way over here with Peyton that I have a hard time.
A gulf of 40, essentially, between Peyton Manning and Shohei Ohtani as athletes. The best athletes.
Yeah, like Shohei is more athletic than Peyton Manning.
That's what I'm saying.
But it doesn't make him a greater athlete.
I hate that.
But I get that point because I was closer.
Damn it. That is such a weasel way to get a point.
It wasn't very close to the pen, but it was the closest to the
It's
pen.
a familiar theme. So, next to Shohei, 2-time MVP, 2018 Rookie of the Year, 3-time All-Star, 2 40-home run seasons, 38-19 record as a pitcher with a 3.01 career ERA, top 5 Cy Young finish, though he has never won the Cy Young Award, for Shohei Ohtani of the Los Angeles Dodgers and his interpreter.
I was a gamble on that joke. All right. Next player, Ed Reed.
Neither of us laughed.
You just had to throw that out there after I got the player out?
Yeah.
You need a range for Ed Reed?
Yeah, we'll do range. Actually, this is an exact one. He's anywhere from 90 to 100.
That's a crime. That's a crime.
We're going to say it's a crime for every name that pops up.
No, I know.
We're talking about
these lists are so damn
every
effective.
athlete in every sport, male or female,
Ed Reed?
in the last 24 years.
Bottom 10th? Garbage. I hate that.
You're saying he's in the 90s?
In the 90s.
I'm going to say...
No, me first. You guessed last time. 92.
I'm 91.
99.
Oh, wow.
Cheated and got that last point anyway.
Did not play the probabilities on that
99?
99.
That's crap. Come on. You don't think that's garbage? Ed Reed is one of the most electric football players I've ever seen play. In the history of the sport. He's the best safety in the history of the sport.
GOAT safety.
Come on. I hate that. Ed Reed, key accomplishments, Hall of Famer in 2019, a 9-time Pro Bowler, 5-time first-team All-Pro, Hall of Fame, All-2000s team, 2004 Defensive Player of the Year. He did win. Was he not on the? He wasn't on the 2000 Super Bowl team.
He was on 2012.
Right, the last one, Ray Lewis's last ride, right?
Yes.
So they left out on his key accomplishments that he is also a Super Bowl champion. But there's so many electric plays that in a sport of incredible athletes, no other athletes at safety make the kind of plays that Ed Reed did in his career. I hate that. Anyway.
You're going to hate all of these, I think.
No,
I don't know if you've agreed with a single one.
I really think I hate the Ed Reed one.
As a Lakers show, I felt like we should have this player on them. LeBron James, where does he rank? I'm not even going to give you a range. It has to be exact.
Oh, it has to be exact.
I feel like you should get this one.
I feel like you should.
Okay. He is one of the 2 greatest basketball players in the history of the game, which is an international game. I'm going to go with 4. No, 3.
Oh, but I almost cussed.
3.
No, he has to stick
but for
with,
a moment,
you have to stick with
for a
Lucas
moment.
has to stick with his guess.
Fine, 4.
2.
Lucas was right.
Oh!
4.
4. I was convicted in it, too.
I feel like Lucas should get 3 points for that one.
No, we shouldn't get any points for that one. So wait.
I'm gaining on you.
I'm only up by 1 now. No, we're tied. Because that counts for 2 because he got it exactly.
Yes.
Garbage. So LeBron James in this exercise. Do you have anybody, before we continue, do you have anybody on your list of names that ranks higher than LeBron James, or can I read the top 4 through 1?
We do not have anybody on the list who is higher than 4.
Okay, so ranked above LeBron James, Lionel Messi at 3, Serena Williams at 2. Michael Phelps is the top athlete of the 21st century according to ESPN. Now, I probably again, because I'm weighing the word athlete, I think heavier here than they appear to be, on top of career accomplishments, because Michael Phelps is, of course, an incredibly accomplished. Is he our most accomplished Olympian?
Yeah, he is. I don't take big issue with any of those.
I don't really either. I might be willing to flip-flop Serena and LeBron at 2 and 4. But Serena, again, career accomplishments off the charts, and LeBron, who has had an accomplished career, is not Serena Williams that way.
All right, we got 5 minutes to do 5 more.
All right, let's go quickly. Former Vol Candace Parker. Ooh. She is in the range of 55 to 65. Where does Candace Parker land on the list?
I am going to say that Candace Parker is 63rd.
I'm going to go higher, arguably the greatest women's basketball player of all time. So I will say 57.
It was actually 60, so who gets it there?
What's the tiebreaker?
Buck went over, so Lucas gets the point.
I appreciate your logic.
I hate you.
That's fair. I don't care.
See? It all comes full circle.
I'm up 4-3.
This is crap.
All right. Cristiano Ronaldo, where does he rank range-wise? 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s?
Messi is 3. The Messi versus Ronaldo debate feels like it has gone.
No, it's so over.
It is. It is towards the side of Messi, more accomplished player for club and country. In terms of championship, certainly. But Ronaldo as an athlete, that's always what he had over Lionel Messi, was the athleticism, the ability to dominate a game in a multitude of ways.
Not the longevity, though.
Yeah, he held back his Portugal team in the Euros.
And that has to count for something.
Yeah, he is holding that team hostage right now. Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic at the moment.
Somebody just asked, where does Joey Chestnut
I'm
land?
going the teens. I'm going in the 10s.
20s.
Lucas is right. All right. Are you ready for the next one?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Floyd Mayweather. Where does this boxing legend land in the top 100 rankings? 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, or is he the 100th player?
I'm going to say 20s on Floyd. I'm going to stick with the 20s.
Probably the greatest boxer of this century.
Of the 21st century. I mean, boxing has gotten so warped. I don't know, is Jake Paul on here?
Yeah, like does the value of the sport drop off at all?
That's what I'm saying. Like, the sport has gone in the toilet where it's Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. And that's what people listen, which is, by the way, what the audience wants. Whatever.
So excited for that fight.
I agree with you, but we're not going to give the same answer, so I'm going to go 30s.
Buck was right. It's a 20.
Okay. Yeah. Back to even.
All right.
Nope, I'm down by 1.
I'm 5-4.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers. Where does he land from 85 to 95 in this top 100 ranking?
I'm going to go 91.
85 to 95. I still think that Aaron Rodgers, beyond Patrick Mahomes, is my favorite quarterback to watch. Like, Brady is excellent, but not aesthetically. You said 91?
I'm saying 91. What was Ed Reed again?
99.
So Rodgers above Reed no matter what. 91. That's my answer.
87.
91 is correct. Exactly.
Oh!
That's a blowout.
All right, Buck. I'll give you an opportunity here for the 10th and final player. If you get it exactly right, you can bet some of your points to try to beat Lucas, but Lucas can also bet. We're doing it Final Jeopardy style.
Oh, spicy.
We'll twist a lime.
Who is it?
Give me the damn player.
I need to know your bet and everything. Like, it's Final Jeopardy, bud. Come on, let's.
Oh yeah, I'll bet all. What I have my
going all or
points.
nothing?
Yeah, all or nothing.
What's yours, Lucas? None?
Yeah, I'm going normal point.
All right. Tiger Woods, where does he land from 1 to 10?
Well, we know what the top 4 look like. So we know that's out of it here. I'm going to say the Tiger Woods. Oh, but would he be above Brady? That's tough for me.
That's the question.
Tiger 6th.
Tiger 6. I'm
going to
go 5th. I'm going 5th.
He was 8th. You're both wrong. Buck loses 5-0.
Well, no, yeah, I just lost all my points. It's
the helmet of shame.
Oh, I hate the helmet of shame. I'm the only one who wears the helmet of shame.
It's going to be molded to the shape of your head before long.
Unfortunate. All right.
Charlie asked in the FNM Bank chat where Joey Chestnut landed.
Surely he's not on that list.
I don't think he's on the list.
That's an abomination if he's not.
He's definitely not. You know who else isn't on this list, and I'm a little surprised by? I thought Derrick Henry would have been on this list.
Greatest running back of the 21st century?
I don't think there's any disputing that. Does that surprise you? Like, I and I haven't done it by like positions or anything like that.
I mean, Adrian Peterson would have been a better running back in the 21st century.
But not really by much. Like, I'm looking, Adrian Peterson is also not on this list. Justice for running backs.
Yeah. Disrespect
Justice
to the running.
For running
is there
back.
not a single running back?
No, surely
if Peterson's
running
not.
back. But, I mean, if AD's not on there and Derrick Henry's not on there, who the hell, what other running backs would have that case?
I think Ovi is the highest hockey player on there, and he's in the 50s.
Sidney Crosby, I believe.
Oh, Crosby, okay.
20s or 30s.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm just going to look for the term running back on here to see if there's anything. There is not a single running back on this list. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's the top 100 athletes of the 21st century, according to ESPN.
Did you guys have fun?
I did.
Sure did.
I lost, but I had fun. I will not have fun because I'll wear the helmet of shame. Lucas will give us an SEC stat of the day, and the final hour, the first hour, rather, will conclude.
SEC Media Days is over. Folks flying home from Dallas. Did you see that Alabama head coach Kalen DeBoer took a commercial flight to Dallas?
No.
Alabama players took the private jet. Kalen DeBoer went commercial because he wanted to spend more time there, wanted to, get to know people, kind of come and go at his leisure.
Oh, slick.
As he integrates himself into the SEC, and he looked prepared for the moment. I thought he had a good SEC Media Days debut, but I thought that was interesting. I don't know. I feel like the head coach of Alabama could just get a separate private jet from the players. I don't know. I thought that was very interesting. But the SEC stat of the day has to do with the financial element of things because revenue sharing is coming to college football in the coming years.
Quickly, somebody in the F&M Bank chat brought up, wonder how flying out of Dallas is today with this whole Microsoft crash.
No. DeBoer.
You think they sent the PJ back?
Alabama Day was a couple of days ago. They, I believe, were on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. So I imagine
everybody got out okay.
But yeah, if he decided to stick around, then I don't know. Maybe Kalen DeBoer is sitting in an airport somewhere with a bunch of SEC fans peppering him with questions about Alabama's roster. Ross Dellinger did some great reporting all week at SEC Media Days. It's rare when you can get every single SEC head coach in the same place for an entire week. And Dellinger talked to damn near all of them about revenue sharing and where coaches anticipate the distribution going. Now, we talked about this when the news broke. Schools will get approximately $20 million annually to distribute amongst its athletes. And that is not including NIL and collectives, which will still exist. But according to the reporting by Ross Dellinger, SEC head coaches tell him that they anticipate distributing as much as $15 million annually in rev share to football players. That equals $250 million as a league annually. So the figure we've seen per school is about NILs and collectives as a, quote, sweetener to portal players, players currently on the roster, and recruits out of high school, aside from the $15 million that they believe their football program will get.
So there's also this side note from Paula Levine and Dan Murphy of ESPN that an official for the U.S. Department of Education, which is the federal enforcer of gender equity in sports, said Title IX rules will apply to future revenue dollars that schools share with college athletes, but the department declined to offer guidance on how schools should distribute the money between men and women to comply with the broad language of the law. So that's one thing that sticks out in the middle of this is, all right, how do you account for men's and women's sports? How does Title IX factor in on top of understanding that, yes, the highest percentage of this revenue share should absolutely go to the football program because that is the most across the board revenue generator, no matter if you're Power 4, is it group of 5 now, group of 6? What are we calling the groups now?
Still calling a group of 5.
All right, group of 5.
The Pac-2 is just kind of
their own thing.
They're there.
Okay, very good. So the group of 5 and the Pac-2, all of these things, that always holds serve. So it's the first step in this as everybody tries to figure out how to deal from the aftermath of the NCAA versus House settlement, and the revenue sharing being a big part of that.
Billy Napier said to Yahoo Sports, quote, do the math. We're talking $20 million. In most athletic departments, football is 70 to 75% of the revenue. Yeah. That's $12.5 to $15 million. That's the number we anticipate. LSU head coach Brian Kelly said he would expect between $14 to $17 million. And the follow-up question to Kelly was, can every school afford such a price tag? And this is straight from the article, quote, everybody in the SEC, he said with a smile.
That is so sinister.
The other thing, coaches believe, according to Dellinger.
I can't drink my coffee through this damn helmet.
According to Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports, coaches believe the new football roster limit will settle at around 105 players, a figure that will permit schools to offer 20 more scholarships for the sport than the current NCAA maximum of 85. So more money, more scholarship players, and more collective involvement. Now, the question Dellinger poses is, does this solve any issues? Because collectives are not going away. Does it level the playing field in some way? Sure. And collectives will still play a major role in how much more of a sweetener schools can add on to it. But I wonder what this means for the likes of Kentucky, who obviously basketball affects Kentucky very differently than how basketball affects other SEC programs, even though the SEC has taken a greater investment into basketball. So I don't know. He didn't talk to Mark Stoops, at least not for this article. But very interesting, because when this came out, you immediately started to divvy it up in your head. Okay, X amount goes to the football, X amount goes to men's basketball, and then women's basketball, and then what? Our baseball and softball and all the non-revenue sports jockeying for the scraps in terms of NIL? Or do schools just go all the way to one side of things and say, nope, football drives the engine, football gets whatever they want, and then you guys can fight over the rest?
It feels unfair, but it's really not, right? That idea that football gets what it wants and everybody else figures it out amongst themselves. But and the immediate cost is, okay, so like we're talking about major mainstream institutions, SEC schools, LSU, Kentucky, Notre Dame, all these kind of different things. And I see headlines already, and I'm sure it's not just this one that I saw, and I'm sure it's been happening at several colleges across any level of collegiate athletics, but like HBCUs, right? There are HBCUs that obviously have football programs, TSU, right down the road from us. HBCUs and how they handle this kind of situation where football may not be, on par with revenue generators at SEC programs, or even a place like, I don't know what like the difference between MTSU's football program and how they generate revenue versus TSU and how that compares to the rest of their athletic programs. But like HBCU Talladega College is already shutting down their women's gymnastics. And that's something that they're now having to figure out how to self-fund, because the college is saying, well, there's not a viable revenue path forward here. We're not going to be able to do this. And now they're putting the onus and the burden back on coaches and players to go out and essentially find their own funding as a club sport. I don't want to be callous in the way that I say that stuff's going to happen, but that stuff is going to happen without certain protections in place, and that's kind of the landscape that they're having to navigate right now. Those are the observations?
That's it.
All right, very good. Coming up next, biggest takeaways from SEC Media Days. It is concluded. 3HL is on their way back. I believe they're going to be are they in studio today? Or God, how often do they actually do their show from a studio? I feel like they're always somewhere doing something, whether it's Twin Creeks or Twin Peaks or SEC Media Days, wherever they're hanging out at. Anyway.
Twin Creeks and Twin Peaks.
Something like that. 3HL is also going to be back. And so we will talk about our biggest takeaways. Coach Mack will join us Friday Fire. We've got giveaways, a great second hour coming up next.
It is 11:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. In NFL news this morning, New Orleans Saints offensive tackle Ryan Ramczyk is set to miss the 2024 NFL season after the Saints placed him on the reserve, physically unable to perform list. The 30-year-old has dealt with a knee injury since last year. The Open Championship happening at Royal Troon Golf Club. Shane Lowry currently at the top of the leaderboard at 7 under, going 2 under for the second round. Nashville Soccer Club hits the road tomorrow night, taking on Philadelphia Union. Nashville trying to end a 5-game losing skid before the MLS regular season pauses for Leagues Cup. Pre-game coverage on The Zone starts at 6. Kickoff is at 6:30. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Is it over? Is it finally over? SEC Media Days, are we clear? Can I emerge from the bunker?
You can emerge.
It feels like so long since 3HL schlepped down to Dallas, did they talk to damn near every SEC head coach? Throughout the course of the week, they did some really, really good interviews. A lot of them available on the Zone's YouTube channel, and Don Davenport will join us in the final hour to recap SEC Media Days and the coverage that they were able to provide, all the comings and goings in Dallas. But for our purposes, it's done. We went through every SEC program, including Texas and Oklahoma. We did one big thing on each. Now, famously, my biggest issue with SEC Media Days is that it's rare that we learn things of consequence. So I wanted to provide us the opportunity to showcase to the audience what we might have actually learned of consequence from this year's SEC Media Days. Would anybody around the room like to start?
Hello Day gets us started on the FNM Bank chat. He says the biggest takeaway from Dallas, Billy Napier has the toughest schedule in the nation and will be fired from Florida before the end of the season. Well, so his biggest takeaway is a prediction for the 2024 season. No, look, I think the conversation was largely about Oklahoma and Texas. There was a massive contingent of Oklahoma and Texas local media there, more so than other SEC markets. So that part of it makes sense. No big news broke. Some interesting stuff like what we just talked about, Ross Dellinger getting to bend the ear of multiple head coaches on what revenue sharing will look like is interesting. But to be honest with you, my biggest takeaway from SEC Media Days is nobody has filled the void of Nick Saban at SEC Media Days. No SEC head coach is showing up trying to fix college football or giving reasonable solutions to fix college football.
Or would have really the credibility to impact it that way, the way that every time Nick Saban spoke, there was some level of news coming out of it. Whether you thought it was real news, whether you thought it was news of consequence, or whether it's just Nick Saban saying something about the state of college football, his presence, his dominance makes it news. That's no longer the case, or at least there's a void right now, I think, across college football that way.
I don't know that there isn't a coach with the credibility to step into that spotlight, not the credibility of the greatest college football coach to ever walk a sideline, of course. But if Kirby Smart really wanted to, Kirby Smart could step up to the podium with an outline for the future of the sport and what needs to happen. But I don't know that Kirby Smart is particularly interested in doing that. Nick Saban always had answers prepared when he would get questions about the future of the sport, about the current state of the sport. And it wasn't nearly as much of a topic at Media Days this year as it has been in the past couple of years.
Now, wait, do you think that's because Saban wanted to get at? Now, I'm sure there are some moments where Saban felt the need, the urge to say, okay, my words have impact here. Let's see what we can actually impact. Versus a lot of times, they are preparing him for questions that he is absolutely going to be asked because he is, for all intents and purposes, voice of college football, that he has to be prepared on all of these things, whether he wants to speak out on every one of these issues or he's just going to get the questions, so they have to keep him prepared. I'm sure there's probably both things there, right? Some things he wanted to speak out on, some things he had to be prepared to speak out on because he's going to get asked about him anyway. He's going to get asked about him on television. He's going to get asked about him on, if Alabama's out of the playoff and he's co-hosting College Game Day with Reese and them around the playoff time and things like that. Like, he just has to be prepared at all times.
No, I don't think he has to be as thoughtful as he has been in providing solutions. I think he has a legitimate vested interest in the health of college football and the future of the sport, and does not believe that the state that we're currently in is sustainable. And he's right. It's very easy for people to take pot shots at Nick Saban. And, when NIL came about and they say, of course he hates it. Now other people can pay players like he was before. I don't think it was ever about that for Nick Saban. I think he has a legitimate interest in the health of the sport to make it a sustainable product that ends up being what's best for the student athletes. And Nick Saban saw a lot of things about the current state of the sport that, yes, gave student athletes great opportunities financially, but also in the long run, put them in tougher spots at the end of the road when, they're chasing an extra couple of $1,000s and going to a place that's not a good fit and then bouncing around. And then, you end up not having a consistent education somewhere. There's a million different things that we can talk about. I do think Nick Saban always had a vested interest in the future of this sport and still does, to the point where, he's deflecting when he's asked about, hey, would you think you'd be a college football commissioner? If that, you'd have to ask Miss Terry, right? He's not saying no. He's not saying, I'm good. I'm just going to play golf.
Shucks, ask Terry. I love that. But of the things of so in the absence of that, right, in the absence of even that dialogue, to your point, because mostly it's about Texas and Oklahoma for the biggest national championship contender anywhere, but certainly in this conference for Georgia, it's about off-the-field issues more than it is anything else right now, right? Kirby has had to dedicate a significant portion of his focus to dealing with the reckless driving incidents that keep happening around his football program and that are now starting to get players outright dismissed in ways that we really haven't seen. What did we actually learn from SEC Media Days? My takeaway is a little tongue in cheek, but my takeaway is that Lane Kiffin holds a grudge, and it delights me. This is Lane Kiffin on the set of the Paul Feinbaum show, speaking not yesterday. When was Ole Miss's SEC Media Days appearance? Was that Wednesday or Thursday?
Not Wednesday. I think it was Tuesday.
Okay, so this would have been maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't know.
Early in the week,
let's say. Lane Kiffin on with Paul Feinbaum and bringing up the time that Lane felt Paul helped him get fired at USC.
I'll steal your line, but I was going through a deep depression over this incorrect guilt that you tried to lay on me, which preceded that move. Had something to do with Southern California.
Oh, yeah. When you got me fired at USC, I got myself fired at USC, but you didn't help.
It's a better story if I got you fired.
You really did. Because it is a true story that the athletic director and the president were on that trip. We were playing that night, and you were on College Game Day, and you had to make your big splash, and they were watching it, because I know the other person in the room that was watching it with them, and you said what a joke I was, and I'm the Miley Cyrus of college football coaching, and I should be fired, and they looked at each other, and later that night I was fired.
Yeah, by the way.
But hey, look what happened. I would have never gotten to work for Coach Saban. All these other things wouldn't happen, so I appreciate you for helping getting me fired. Thank you.
Look at what you're doing today. You're predicted to go to the playoffs. And look at Miley Cyrus. She's had a nice comeback.
So you're wrong with that. I mean, you put me down with that. So really, I don't really know what you're good at. Like you predicted that Coach Saban was done. That didn't happen. You basically said Miley Cyrus stinks, and she's still going.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's always great to be ridiculed by Lane Kiffin here at SEC.
Honestly, I don't know what you're good at is a wild line from Lane. Because it's not delivered with any kind of malice or menace, right? It's just a shiv to the side on the way out the door. Really, Paul, I don't know what you're good at all.
I watched that live, and I was chuckling at it, but I wasn't like, oh my goodness, Lane Kiffin hates Paul Feinbaum, because the rest of the interview was fantastic and cordial, and there's very clear a banter there. And Feinbaum has that with basically every SEC head coach, especially one with the past of Lane Kiffin. I think Lane Kiffin legitimately enjoys spending time with Paul Feinbaum and likes Paul Feinbaum. I mean, you should have heard the beginning of that interview when they're talking about Monty Kiffin. And Lane's, getting emotional talking about, how great Nick Saban was.
And Paul has good context on the historical context of what Monty Kiffin means to the game.
But that was definitely some great banter. Marshall on the F&M Bank chat says his biggest takeaway is that Arkansas is going to be tough, and honorable mention, doing horns down is not a penalty.
Honestly, that may be the biggest takeaway from SEC
100%.
Media Days. Love that.
100%.
Love that. Let the hate flow, baby. Give me horns down at every Texas game. Let me hear from salty Texas fans. I heard somebody bring this up the other day. The idea that and Texas, it is year round. Oklahoma, I'm sure it is the same, right? If you had to pick two programs outside of the SEC prior to the season that probably treat football the same way that SEC schools do, Texas and Oklahoma, you could probably do worse.
Yeah.
But it is a year-round, banter. It is year-round animosity. It is year-round contentiousness. And I heard somebody, and I wish that I could give credit, but I heard somebody bring up the idea that I don't know if Oklahoma fans are ready for that year-round, Kentucky fans just populating your mentions on any given Wednesday or something like that, because something has happened somewhere in an SEC sport, and now it's their opportunity to take a whack at the other person's beehive.
Different from playing K-State. Yeah. It's just different. No disrespect to K-State. The predicted, remember Rodney Terry's whole thing, too, the Texas basketball coach after the UCF game, chastising UCF players for, get out of here with that.
Whiny.
We do not. You can be as offended by it as you like, but don't hold us to that standard. So great move by the SEC. Predicted order of finishes out from the SEC media poll. I'm not going to make you guess who is the predicted winner of the league. That's Georgia, Texas 2, Alabama 3, Ole Miss 4. Who do you think came in 5th? Because remember, no more divisions, so it's just straight up 1 through 16 predicted order of finish. LSU.
What do they know that we don't?
That's a good roster. Garrett Nussmeier has stuck around at LSU. He did good things in the bowl game, and defense figures to be addressed. But who do you think is 6th?
Mizzou. Okay.
Who do you think is 7th?
Tennessee.
Predicted to finish 7th in the Southeastern Conference by the SEC media poll. Oklahoma,
I think Vols fans handle that. We can talk about it coming up next.
Mac.
Oh, morale is through the roof. Anytime you hear that music, that means that Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio is on the other side of the phone line. Coach Mack and his visits presented by the wonderful people at Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet, just 7 miles east of Nashville International Airport. Or you can check out all of their new or pre-owned inventory, certified pre-owned inventory, online at tworiversford.com. Happy Friday, Mac.
Hey, Buck, how you doing? Lucas, how you doing? Everything going good?
Everything's going great because it's our last Friday, Mac, without actual football players on a football field and things from practice to discuss.
Y'all going to be at practice, every practice that's open this year?
We're doing every one of them. I'll be at every one of them. Lucas will be at the ones when we're doing the radio show throughout the course of the week. So we're fired up to get back out there, talk to some players, watch practice, and learn some from this new coaching staff in what feels like the real thing, right, Mac? There's no ramp up period in training camp. These guys are expected to go as soon as they report.
Well, they've got 3 days of ramp up. They got per the CBA. You got 3 days of ramp up with no pads, but then, the thing that happens, Buck, you guys know this, is once you do come back, which is on top of us, it goes pretty fast because before you know it, Seattle's going to be here for working out that week against us, and then it's on. So yeah, it goes fast, but it's not like it was back in the day. People keep liking to say back in the day when the first time you showed up, you strapped the pads on and went out there for 2.5, 3 hours, and then got a couple hours of rest and went back and did it again.
Got to turn your mic on to ask Mac a question,
up, Lucas. We're having operator error issues around here, Mac. Somehow we've forgotten how to turn our microphones off after 4 years of doing a radio show. Anyway, with the changes, and obviously those changes have been in place for quite some time, the way that the CBAs are negotiated year in and year out, how much the contact level at training camp practices has diminished. How have coaches acclimated to that as the rules change, as the contact becomes less, and you're still trying to get players essentially calloused for contact before preseason play begins?
Well, I've lived through it. I've adapted. I've lived it. Because I was there from the start when we would go for 6 weeks and would practice, twice a day in pads every day. Monday through Saturday, we'd have Sunday morning off, and then we'd put the pads on Sunday evening. So I've lived through that era of it. I've lived through, the collective bargaining agreements. I've lived through what they are doing now. You adapt. Because you have to adapt, and you just like they've had to adapt with the off-season programs and everything. When you're coaching, what you do, especially in the National Football League, when the rules are set, because there is a collective bargaining agreement. There is a players' union, and so when those rules are set, you learn how to adapt to them. And the coaches that adapt the quickest are the best. The coaches that complain about it are the ones that are usually lagging behind, because it's whatever the rules are, the rules are. And so, and people have found a way to make it work. And also, it's incumbent upon the players too, because now what's happened, Buck, players are training year round. They used to not train year round. You would have, and they wouldn't be around the facility year round. It's different now. It's completely different. But even during the season with pads, you can wear pads 14 times during an NFL season. 14. During a 17-week season, you can wear pads. So you have to learn. That's why it's so important. You've heard me say this before. We've talked about it, how incumbent it is upon the young players coming in to learn how to practice full speed without pads. That's extremely important for the timing of it, because you're only allowed to wear pads so many times.
Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio here with us, talking Titans, courtesy of Two Rivers Ford.
Mac, about 4 days before players report to Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park, what are coaches here and across the NFL doing right now in preparation?
Well, the plans for training camp have already been in place. The thing that you've done as a coach, and it's different tiers of where you are in your coaching strata. If you're an assistant coach, the things that you've done are clearly different than what a coordinator does and what a head coach does. As far as first of all, because you never completely lose contact with your players over this 5.5-week period. That just doesn't happen. The other thing is that you're making sure, if I'm an assistant coach, that all of my daily plans, going off of the plan that the head coach has given me as to the way practices are, all of my individual plans are already laid out. They're laid out. Here's what I'm going to work on. Here's how I'm going to stair-step my individual drills, those types of things. All of those things are already laid out. For a coordinator, it's about the things that you want to install. And then as a head coach, you've got to meld the installation of your offense and your defense together so that when you practice together that you're working on some of the same things. As far as this is red zone days, red zone installation. This is 3rd and 7+ installation. All of those things have to coincide with one another as a head coach when you're putting these things together. So those are the type of things that are going on. And really, guys, after the 4th of July, I think we've talked about this before, as coaches, your mind's back into it. I mean, you may still be away, but your mind is already back into it because it starts moving really, really fast, just as you talked about earlier, Buck, when we first started this. It starts fast. It starts fast, and it goes really quick. So you have to be ready. And that clock always switched for me after the 4th of July. Then it was on.
Coach, you spent a lot of time around Bill Callahan watching the offensive line group operate during the course of off-season workouts. What is Mac's plan of attack right at the start of training camp, the first group that you're most interested in watching, or are you going to go back to the offensive line, you think, to start?
I'll be with the offensive line because I want to see these guys with pads now. I mean, that's going to be some defining moments for me because this offensive line is still not set. From the center to the left, I think we're pretty much set on who's going to be the starters. I mean, you still don't have a right guard and right tackle decided, and so that's going to be extremely important. So I will spend time with that. As I said, this defense. I mean, I've got a defensive playbook that's got. I know this defense, and I know. I mean, I can pretty much guess. After 5 years I was with these guys, the course of their installation and how that's going to be. But once they get the pads on, then clearly I'll start migrating from the offensive line, over there, to the offensive side of it and just watch the new iteration of this offense because this is going to be completely different than anything anybody ever associated with the Titans, as a fan has paid attention to offensively. It's a different mindset offensively. So I'm going to be paying very, very close attention to that. And then we've got enough new people coming in that each individual group is going to get my attention, as we move forward in training camp, because you just got different groups. I mean, this is about 40% of this team is new. About 31% is about normal for National Football League teams. 40% of this team is new. So, and the whole systems are new for these players. So it's going to be a very introspective training camp from my point of view, as to watching, and then just watching how Brian Callahan, runs his practices. I've got a pretty good idea, I think, how he's going to do it, but it's going to be interesting to watch.
Without, to your point about having the defensive playbook, and Mac, obviously you go back a long while with this defense, having many different influences that, of course, you've come across with or had the opportunity to coach with in your career, coach in your career. I went back and listened to some press conference clips and stuff like that here in the last couple of weeks getting ready for camp, so I'm not asking the same questions. And the thing that I noticed about Denard Wilson's media availabilities, and maybe I'm honing in on it too much, but he just keeps talking about attacking and aggression and setting the tone with defense, which is something that you hear pretty commonly when defensive coaches talk. But I think that there's been this kind of this idea in Titans fans' head that Denard Wilson, coming from the Ravens defense, is going to run the Ravens defense. And while there might be some elements of that, Denard Wilson has had many other influences across his coaching career that may not look exactly like what Baltimore and Mike McDonald ran last year.
No, there'll be elements of it. You're 100% right. There'll be elements of those 5 years we were together, at the Rams, is the playbook I was referring to. That took us 5 years to construct that with input, from Denard, from Frank Bush, from Greg Williams, from Jeff Fisher, from myself. But he's also, he's been around several different types of defenses. I think his mindset, I can pretty much tell you that his mindset, the things that he says, I mean, that's the way he coaches, and I've seen him coach that way, both in the classroom and on the field. So how they're going to put it all together with those various influences, I'm going to be very interested to see that. But you're 100% right, Buck. Look, all of us as coaches, we're all thieves. We've all taken things from places that we've been, and the good coaches are the ones that are willing to find and to take things that will help them and incorporate that into their thoughts to try to improve year to year, because you've got to adjust year to year too, because offenses evolve and so defenses have to evolve too. But you're right about that. He's got all those influences. You'll see some parts of them in all of this defense.
Coach, pivoting a little bit here, SEC Media Days just wrapped up in Dallas. Yeah. It was kind of a different look to it with Texas and OU, and obviously being in the Lone Star State for the first time in terms of Media Days happening. What's your biggest question mark about what Oklahoma and Texas will have the ability to do as they make this transition over to the SEC?
Well, I think the SEC, the grind of an SEC schedule is totally different from anything that Texas and OU have been involved in. I think the big thing about the Southeastern Conference, you know, in my years of really paying close attention to it, which Doug Matthews and I do on Coach to Coach, that's exclusively what I've done for 8 years now with him is pay attention to that. Of course, I've always paid attention to the SEC when I was coaching the NFL because, you know, you look at a lot of players coming out of the SEC, that's just where they are. But talking about coaching in it, I think the thing that really stood out to me when I started really analyzing games week to week to week is that you have better be able to stand up physically in your offensive and defensive fronts week to week to week in the Southeastern Conference. That's what separates it from every other conference. That separates it from every other conference. The only other group that comes even close to that, and it's a couple of teams, but not throughout, is the Big Ten. I'm talking about up front. I mean, and the legitimate dudes up front that can wear you out week to week to week, and on both sides of the football. You just have to look at where the players come from in the National Football League. Just look at the number of players at the combine, where they come from, size, speed athletes, both on the offensive and the defensive fronts. That's the thing that Texas and Oklahoma are going to have to get involved in. I think Texas is probably a little ahead of Oklahoma as far as in that aspect of it. Oklahoma has always had those skill athletes. I think that just they played a different brand of football in the Big 12 offensively and clearly defensively. I think those two things, and not just on a game, just one game basis, 1 week, but week after week after week. That's the thing that they've got to recruit to and be ready for.
Steve Sarkisian at his first SEC Media Days, not like he hadn't done Media Days before, Mac, but said that Arkansas football fans hate Texas football more than they like Arkansas football. And Sam Pittman, the coach of Arkansas, said, yeah, I probably agree with that assessment. You can speak to that rivalry or that cross-state hatred as well as anybody. How real is that between Texas and Arkansas?
But it goes Southwest. It goes Southwest Conference deep. It goes Dale Royal, Frank Broyles deep. Go deep. Go back deep to that. It absolutely does because the Southwest Conference. Every team in the original Southwest Conference was in Texas except Arkansas, and so clearly Arkansas was the outsider, and they were really good, and so that's not a fabrication. That and the hate that Texas and Texas A&M have for each other deep down in their hearts is really close to that people will find out.
He's Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio. His visits are always presented to us by the good people of Two Rivers Ford. Mac, I know your Mac Across America tour has been going on, so it's not like you've had much of an off season at all, but I'm looking forward to getting back out there with you, buddy, and talking some ball with actual ball to talk about.
Yeah, I'm flying out of Dallas tomorrow night. Are the computers working?
I don't know, Mac. I have a MacBook, so the whole Windows thing I've been fortunate to avoid, but it seems like things are starting to come back online from the update that apparently sent the world crashing today.
Did something happen?
I'm telling you now, even though I'm out here in West Texas, we do get a lot of news. And, of course, I knew I was going to be connecting through Dallas tomorrow night to get back to Nashville, and that caught my attention real quick because I had that happen one time to me during COVID where I thought I was going to leave Lubbock, Texas, flying to Dallas, and then be in Nashville about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the next thing I knew, I'm in Denver, and then I'm in Las Vegas, and then I'm in Nash Vegas about 4 a.m. So yeah, I've got PTSD from that.
Yeah, I shouldn't laugh. That sounds like a horrifying experience.
It's
oh my God.
a different way to wake up in Vegas.
So I hope this is what pisses me off most about Lucas though, Mac, is that the world just happens around him, and even you in West Texas are getting all the latest news, all the latest updates, and Lucas is just oblivious to the rest of the world.
It's easier this way, Coach Mac.
Oh God, Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio.
I wouldn't call Lucas bolivious, but I would call Lucas very content with what's happening where he is.
Yeah, that's it. That would be an accurate assessment. Coach Dave McGinnis, Titans Radio. Two Rivers Ford makes it possible. Happy Friday, Mac. We appreciate it.
See you at practice, guys.
That's the main man, the man in black, Coach Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio. And I'm sure we'll be able to have Mac on. Well, we won't be, not this Friday. Will there be a practice, right?
A week from today, we will not be out there.
Yeah, this coming Friday.
We'll be out there Wednesday and Thursday next week.
Yeah, Tuesday is when they're going to report. We'll await press conference availability to find out what that's going to look like for us. And then Wednesday, Thursday, we'll do our training camp practices. I'll be out there at the stadium practice on Saturday for those of you who are attending at Nissan Stadium. I know that they've had a good response for that. I think I saw that they had 16. It's a free event, but I think they had like 16,000 tickets claimed, which immediately in my head thinks, where the hell are they going to put 16,000 people around that mound of dirt that's occupying the whole parking lot? We'll find out.
What are they going to do with all that dirt?
Your obsession with the dirt. Is it blocking your view?
No.
Like, do you see it every day or something on your trip from East Nashville to the studio?
I want to know where they're going to put it.
It's got to go somewhere.
They're going to put it back
somewhere.
after they dig it up, put the infrastructure in necessary for the stadium. The dirt goes back.
Can I have some? I drive by it every day.
Why do you want it?
And that pile of dirt gets bigger and bigger.
What is the difference between that dirt and the dirt that you can probably scoop out of your backyard? You're already digging around in the dirt with your garden, your tomatoes, your peppers, all these other things that you've got going on back there.
Secretly, I just want to give it to Bert because I know Bert wants that dirt. Bert is obsessed with that dirt.
My fear is that Bert is going to try and lay claim to the dirt. He's been talking about planting a flag. I don't know. Maybe I've been watching too much Game of Thrones lately, so I'm thinking about what Bert's sigil on his flag might be. What colors is Robert Walsh first of his name? Or I think he's like a third or a second or something like that. I don't know. What is Robert Walsh's sigil on the flag that he's planning to plant in the mound of dirt that, of course, is owned by the Tennessee Titans and Titans Tennessee Football LLC or whatever the LLC is around it? I think he's going to try and make a play for the dirt.
Bert's dirt. There's Heron Hall, there's Winterfell, there's King's Landing, and there's Bert's dirt. We got to do something about this.
We literally have to do nothing about it. Nobody is forcing us to do anything about the dirt. They have good people, paid people, to do something about the dirt. The dirt is completely out of your purview.
Well, somebody's got to keep an eye on Bert because he's going to lay claim to that dirt.
All right, enough
we get
with
a
the
dirt expert on the show?
No.
Where's Bert?
No, I don't. I want less. I have been trying to keep him off my radio show since we got him a promotion to the morning show, and yet still he finds ways to infiltrate the show. It makes me crazy.
Our guy V-Love just tweeted me asking if I'm down to climb it because dudes are driving past that giant dirt pile, and as V-Love points out, looking at it and say, I want to climb that dirt.
I want to climb that dirt.
I'm down.
I want to climb that dirt and then slide down
Just guys being dudes.
So bad.
Yeah, that sounds like a lawsuit and something that should absolutely not be allowed to happen because you'll injure yourself rolling down a massive mound of loose dirt. You're going to cause an avalanche.
I'm going to start
You feel good about that? You cause an avalanche? You have the whole mound of dirt rolling out onto Korean Vets Parkway there?
Hashtag Bert's dirt.
Oh, God. Coming up next, Friday Fire. Do I have prizes?
You do have prizes. It's taking.
Are you amused with yourself? Tell people what they can win before I come back there and get an HR violation.
I thought you were going to say something and then ask.
Unbelievable.
Okay, we got 2 tickets to see Hootie and the Blowfish at Bridgestone Arena next Saturday. Thanks to our Window Nation ticket window.
615-737-1045. You call in. You give us your Friday Fire. What made you feel good this week? We will send you to see Hootie and the Blowfish. If I don't choke Jackson first, go to break. Friday Fire, it is one of our favorite moments of the week because, like you heard Robert Wall say, we need to be more positive. A little more positivity never killed anybody, especially on a Friday as nice as this one. If you give us your moment of positivity, it doesn't have to be sports related. It can be in your personal life. It can be something that happened to a friend, a family member, a loved one, a coworker, whatever. Just something positive. Give us some feel good before the football season takes everything over and drowns us in all of it, which I'm looking forward to. That's probably my Friday Fire, that this is the last Friday without actual football to talk about.
We have a prize.
We do. Jackson, are you prepared this time? What can people win when they call in 615-737-1045 to give us their Friday Fire?
I am prepared. You win 2 tickets to see Hootie and the Blowfish at Bridgestone Arena next Saturday. Thanks to our Window Nation ticket window.
Do
that again.
And some tenderness. You know you want to go see that show.
615-737-1045. You have anything anymore?
We walk up the line.
Okay. really, really limited Darius Rucker impression there.
That's about the mess.
Yeah, okay. 615-737-1045. My Friday Fire is that I don't want to hear any more of that Darius Rucker impression. Can we move on? No. Did you see? All right. So let me start by saying this. Let me start first and foremost that when I bring up Hulk Hogan at the RNC ripping his shirt off last night, that it's not a political thing, okay? It just makes me laugh that Hulk Hogan, regardless of which party he would have been endorsing or would have been which candidate he would have been celebrating, the fact that at one of our party conventions in American politics, that Hulk Hogan ripping his shirt off to reveal the candidate that he supports is a part of the political proceedings at this point. If we're going to have to be dragged through an election cycle, I would like for it to be that. I would like to laugh. I feel like I'm not going to laugh very much in the next couple of months. I feel like we all need a little bit of levity in this situation, especially given the events of last weekend. So that made me laugh. I enjoyed it. Friday Fire, Hulk Hogan running wild at the RNC.
Yes, Hulk Hogan, who is about a dozen years younger than both of our presidential candidates.
I would take him. I would take Hulk Hogan. God.
My Friday Fire has to be Nashville SC homegrown player Isaiah Jones. Now, Isaiah Jones comes from a family of 7 siblings that moved to America from Sierra Leone a decade ago because they were adopted by a family in Thompson Station, Tennessee. A family of 8 children from Sierra Leone, adopted by a family in Williamson County. And fast forward to now, and one of those 8 children, Isaiah Jones, is now the first ever homegrown player to play in an MLS game for Nashville SC. Another one of those 8 children, Malachi Jones, is a rookie for NYCFC after being drafted from Lipscomb after a great college career at Lipscomb. Now, Malachi had a leg injury a couple weeks ago that ended his season, unfortunately, but he was off to a great start in his rookie year, has an extremely promising future in Major League Soccer. So that is my Friday Fire. It's why you love sports, stories like that. It's a pivotal moment for the club in Nashville in terms of player development, but it's also a really cool journey for a group of 8 kids, siblings from Sierra Leone, to come to Tennessee, and 2 of them become professional athletes in Major League Soccer, and plenty of others also finding success along the way.
Lovely. Jackson?
Yes, I am ready.
What are you, SpongeBob?
Okay. Mine is, we're a Lakers show now. Lakers Summer League going on. Bronny James is hooping. He has double-digit points in back-to-back games, scoring 12 on Wednesday and 13 last night. Dalton Connect also balling with 20 points last night. Just a good time to be a Lakers fan. Why not celebrate that on a Friday? Lake Show.
Tough day for the haters who cited nepotism when Bronny James was selected as a second-round pick of the Lakers.
He's hooping.
Do not want an entire basketball season filled with you two pretending to be Lakers fans because of Dalton.
Lake Show.
You hear that, haters? 12 points. What say you? Those who allege nepotism.
25 in 2 games.
It's not nepotism. It's Jaylen Brown, finals MVP, saying he's not a pro. That's what's being alleged. Anyway, for the opportunity to win some Hootie and the Blowfish tickets, the concert is when, Jackson, at Bridgestone Arena?
Yes, next Saturday.
Next Saturday, if you give us your Friday Fire, 615-737-1045. Let's start with Kyle in construction.
Hey, guys. It is finally starting to cool off out here. We're getting a little rain. Everybody's crops are doing well. I'm happy about it. We get to go out and have a good weekend. It's just a lot better right now. And I hope this does a lot better than those Bible kids that let me down last week.
You hear that, Jackson? The Bible children that you spurned. Because what did you end up picking?
What did he choose?
over the baptized children?
It was the EA call. It was somebody saying the EA college football game is about to come out. Jackson chose to give that person the tickets over like 20 kids being baptized.
That's right.
Yes, that's the path he chose.
Correct.
Thanks, boys.
Jackson chose EA College Football 25 as his God. That's what we witnessed last week.
Please just move on.
Okay.
I have a better Friday Fire, by the way.
No, you've already I don't want your secondary Friday Fire when you panicked and gave us your crappy one first. No.
This one just came out.
What?
The SEC officially recognizes Tennessee as the real UT on their first team and second team. All SEC teams, Texas is abbreviated as TEX, while Tennessee is UT.
Oh, that is a nice one.
Take that.
Tough scene. Where's Devondre Sweat?
Horns down.
Him and Mike Keith were chirping back and forth on an official Titans podcast there recently. Somebody send him the clip.
The trash talk with Texas here now is phenomenal. It was good yesterday watching Sam Acho go back and forth with Cole Kubelik on the SEC Network desk about it. Yes, locked in for Texas as the fake UT.
Okay, let's try Gary, who's a Mason, up next.
Fire has got to be Week 18 Titans. I guess they just released it today. We are playing the Texans. It is at home. We will be wearing the jerseys again. Let's go. It's a revenge game. Can we get it?
Did they put out the that's going to be worn officially? I haven't seen that.
No,
Week 18 versus the Texans is what I've seen.
Where did you see it?
On Twitter from let's see.
Twitter not.
He's looking.
Twitter
He's
not
looking.
strong.
I think it was under Kaharski, maybe Paul Kaharski.
I don't think I've seen that today. We'll find out. We'll do some more due diligence. Now,
actually,
that would be a good submission. Hang on, Gary.
I think quite the opposite. I think Jackson. I just sent in some audio where on the official Titans podcast from this week, Mike Keith saying the team will not wear the Oilers uniforms until Week 18 against the Houston Texans.
Oh.
Jackson, can we hear this? I just sent it in. A little blurb from the official Titans podcast when Mike Keith and Amy Wells sat down with the legend Jim Wyatt.
Oh, well, Jimmy Wyatt always has the Britches report. Do we have said Britches report in advance? Maybe. Loading.
He's not
working,
as flashy.
Yeah.
I get to pick one. Boy, it'd have to be between one of these two.
Because we're not wearing Oilers till Week 18.
Yeah.
So this is for training camp.
There it is. Mike Keith not wearing Oilers until Week 18. The Week 18 is the Week 18 opponent is the Houston Texans at home. So are they wearing it twice again?
If they're only wearing it until Week 18, I would assume.
We're not wearing it until. Okay, yes, that is an important clarification by you. Bad listening by me. Andrew works in insurance. Up next.
How are we today?
We're great.
So my Friday Fire is a lifelong dream of mine has finally come true. I've been training. I've been working my tail off to get it. And I am excited to share that at 36 years of age, I'm taking my talents to Knoxville, Tennessee as the starting halfback for the best program in the country. Thank God NCAA college football 25 is back. See you, fellas.
Congratulations, Andrew.
Oh, Lucas.
Gotta turn your mic on.
I did the thing.
It has been so bad this week. How did we forget how to turn on our microphones?
We need to implement a fine system for doing this.
There is a fine system in place. I'm the only one who pays the fines. That's been historically. I got an email about HR about forcing other people to pay fines.
Did you actually?
Well, yeah, this was many, many years ago when we first tried to implement a fine system and me bullying Lucas into paying money that he shouldn't have to pay.
Let's grab Corey real quick.
All right, Corey's the last one.
What's up,
appreciate you taking my call. My Friday fire comes from my daughter, Arliana. She finished her occupational therapy. She was born a month and a half early. And not only did she finish her occupational therapy this week, but she was also accepted into gymnastics. So she's got me just fired up for the weekend. Guys, I appreciate you taking my calls. God bless everybody. Have a good weekend.
Woo! We got a winner.
Yes.
Congratulations,
yes,
Corey. Congratulations to your daughter. Congratulations to her gymnastics team as well for adding what I'm sure is a very talented young lady.
We have to give it to him because if we put it in the hands of Jackson, he'll probably just give it to
He will spurn again
Andrew for the college football game.
Aspiring, promising children kill their hopes in the crib, literally in the crib, because you just had to pass over them for.
He turned our mic off. Congratulations, Corey.
I hate that laugh. Go to break.
12:02. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. The second round of the Open Championship at Royal Troon Golf Club is almost wrapped up. Shane Lowry at the top of the leaderboard at 7 under, 2 strokes in front of Daniel Brown. Both of their days are over. SEC Media Days are in the books, and the Georgia Bulldogs finished at the top of the predicted order of finish by SEC Media, followed by Texas, Alabama, and then Ole Miss. Tennessee predicted to finish 7th by the media poll, behind LSU and Missouri. Nashville Soccer Club hits the road tomorrow night to take on Philadelphia Union. Nashville trying to end a 5-game losing skid before the MLS regular season pauses for Leagues Cup. Pre-game coverage on The Zone starts at 6, kickoff at 6:30. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour of the program for the week. You're almost done with us. Don't worry. We'll turn you over to Blaine Bishop and company here in just a little while. 615-737-1045. Jackson, Lucas, me. Until 1 o'clock, let's talk about what kind of coach we want Brian Callahan to be, or that we think Brian Callahan might be, and how it may mirror his former boss in Zach Taylor, how it might compare to his predecessor in Mike Vrabel, based on a couple of different metrics that we have at our disposal to look at. So we had the conversation to open the show. The idea of who do we think Brian Callahan might most resemble as an NFL head coach? It's a pretty easy thing to say, well, the guy that he just most recently worked for, the guy that he learned how to run an offense from, the guy that he's been working under for the past, 5 seasons in Cincinnati? Before joining the Tennessee Titans as their head coach, Zach Taylor. But a lot of fans, I think, espouse the opinion, at least at the start of the show, and probably have this same line of thinking. You want Brian Callahan to be his own person, right? You don't want every Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan offspring, for lack of a better term, or offshoot, to try and be too much. Just the same as so many Belichick coordinators and assistant coaches and things like that got head coaching jobs. A lot of them reportedly tried the Belichick approach. Turns out they're not the greatest coach in the history of professional football. You can't carry yourself as Bill Belichick without being Bill Belichick at your core. Matt Patricia, Josh McDaniels, all these guys who have flamed out. I know some people would try and compare Vrabel to that. I don't think that's necessarily so. Of the people that were around Belichick who get oftentimes lumped into the Belichick situation, Mike Vrabel was probably one of the more successful ones, at least in his tenure here, even if it didn't end the way that it started.
So, who was the second most? I mean, most
question.
Of them ended.
Eric Mangini had kind of a moment.
Bill O'Brien.
Oh, it's
probably Bill.
Well, Bill O'Brien is the most successful of guys who actually coached for Bill Belichick. Vrabel, famously, player, not a coach under Bill Belichick.
Sure. Yeah, fair enough. But so a lot of them ended in disaster.
Not
Patricia, Judge.
And you could argue that Bill O'Brien also ended in disaster.
It did end in disaster, but there was a period of success there.
And largely it was because, you hear a lot of things about Bill Belichick, and I know we may have referenced this, or I may have sent it into the group text or something like that. Did you ever see that Randall Cobb clip of him on Bussin' with the Boys talking about Bill O'Brien?
Yeah, how bad it was in Houston.
How bad it was. And that's something that you hear a lot about Bill O'Brien basically as a boss and a manager. And it sounds like certainly things spiraled. DeAndre Hopkins has never been anything but diplomatic about the way that things ended with Houston.
You remember where B.O.B. is now?
Oh, he is back in college.
He's a college football head coach.
He's a head coach?
He is a college football Power 4 head coach.
I don't know the answer to that question. I would have said he's an offensive coordinator again.
He replaced Jeff Hafley
Oh, at Boston College?
At Boston College.
Well, that makes sense. Okay. Interesting. So, long story short, Bill O'Brien, the most successful Bill Belichick offshoot. Now, you don't want these guys to be offshoots. You want them to be their own person. You want them to find their own tendencies, find their own footing, find their own identity, even if they're running similar systems. What kind of coach will Brian, I'm going to do that 1,000,001 times. What kind of coach will Brian Callahan be? We will have to wait until the season to actually find out. But let's talk about just tendencies on what we know. If I made you guess, Lucas, the team that went for it, that attempted the most fourth down conversions as an offense last year, who would you guess? Think aggressive. Think, because, you probably know who some of the top ones are.
You said most fourth down conversions?
No, most fourth down attempts. Not that they were successful, but who was the most aggressive on going for it on fourth down?
Not the Chargers. Brandon Staley kind of took a step back with that.
Top 10, though.
Yeah, for sure. But he took a step back with it last year. Detroit.
Detroit is second on this list. The most aggressive team, or at least the team that attempted the most fourth downs. It doesn't necessarily mean that they were the most aggressive, but that they had the most fourth and manageables or whatever and thought that they might be able to succeed, or were just particularly terrible on third down. The Carolina Panthers attempted 48 fourth down conversions last year. They were successful on 47.9% of those fourth down conversions because they were converting their third downs. They had 85 third down conversions for a percentage of 34.1, which was hideous.
It's not terribly shocking because the Panthers were chasing a lot of games last year. A lot of fourth downs at the end of games.
And closer games. Like, I think people think that the Panthers were just getting, rocked every week. It wasn't the case. Hell, I think the Titans game was pretty close.
And that's interesting because, so you were looking at last year. Have you looked at that number or those rankings since 2019 when Zach Taylor was hired in Cincinnati?
No.
Because
do you have that?
The Bengals with Zach Taylor and Brian Callahan as his OC finished, did you say it, 24th? Last year?
I had not.
Bottom 10.
But yes,
right?
They are 24th, tied with...
Who?
The Titans.
Titans? Okay.
The Titans and the Bengals attempted on fourth down to go for it 20 times. Do you know who's more successful on fourth down?
Between Titans and Bengals?
Between the two of them?
Titans.
It was indeed the Titans by a full 10 percentage points. 55% of the time they converted their fourth downs, as opposed to the Bengals 45% of the time. Now, again, without Joe Burrow.
Well, I went back and looked at Cincinnati and their fourth down attempt rate since the start of the Zach Taylor era. And Brian Callahan was with them, right? Year one of that era, 2019. In 2019, the Bengals went for it on fourth down, the third most in the NFL. In 2020, the Bengals went for it on third down, the fourth most in the NFL. Since then, 2021, 2022, 2023, they have been bottom 10 in the NFL in terms of fourth down attempt rate. Basically, since it got good, since they had a roster around Joe Burrow that could contend, since that 2021 season where they made the Super Bowl, they have been one of the lowest teams in fourth down attempt rate. But those first 2 years, they were top 5.
What's changed, as you mentioned? They got better.
They got good.
They didn't need to convert on fourth down. They were, a lot of times they didn't need third down to convert because they have a passing game, and they were finding not explosive gains in the running game at all times, but they would find enough of those 5 and 6 and 7 yard chunk runs because they're running 3 wide receiver personnel. They're spreading out the defense. They're allowing Joe Mixon easier access to lighter boxes to run against. And all by nature of having 1, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd, and 2, of course, Joe Burrow, the quarterback, to be able to operate it at. So just because you see teams being more aggressive on fourth down does not necessarily lend itself to, all right, how aggressive are they going to be in fourth down situations? It just means that some of these teams are having to attempt more fourth downs to keep drives alive, which stands out to me. Now, a lot of times that Titans percentage probably should have been higher, but they just kept finding themselves in 3rd and 6 plus because of the offensive line situation. So the conversion rate on third down struggling. I mean, in particular, Will Levis under pressure, and he was constantly under pressure. And I heard this on Mina Kimes' podcast. I believe they had DJ Bieniemy, the Texans reporter, previewing the AFC South, and this was a stat that they had courtesy of True Media. Will Levis, you know what his QB rating was, or QBR was on third downs?
No.
15. When pressured, 8. Single digits.
Titans had a lot of third and longs.
Correct. And so you have to take that into account because there are some metrics out there. This is why numbers need to be factored in but not taken as gospel in football. ESPN's pass block win rate at the Titans is the 11th best offensive line last year. And I say, what? How? Where? Just show me your work, because I may still not understand it, but please tell me how you drew that conclusion. I don't care what the metrics tell me on pass block win rate.
That's as a unit?
As a unit. Now, NPF had a pretty high pass block win rate, as a matter of fact, in the small sample size that he played. Yeah. So he factored into that.
Could it be with how much the pass pro problems filter down to one player? I'm not saying the offensive line was good outside of Andre Dillard.
That they got undermined so often because of Andre Dillard.
How often was it on the left side that the quarterback was getting blown up?
Sure, and that context matters, but also don't tell me that the Titans had the 11th best anything in offensive line rating after watching that offensive line play. It's not like I'm not saying the numbers don't matter in this moment. I'm not going full John Robinson, which is the tape is my analytics, or however he used to phrase it. But come on, you can't give them that kind of benefit of the doubt there. Understand, you have to contextualize that for the quarterback when you're talking about Will Levis's QBR on third down, Will Levis's QBR under pressure and things like that. It has to be accounted for. So, curious to point that out, curious to kind of understand how those things change as you improve. Does that impact your aggressiveness, or does it just mean that you don't have to be as aggressive because you're finding ways to convert with relative ease? Dawn Davenport going to join us coming up next. Is she going to spend more than 6 minutes with us?
Yes, no Jeff Lebby right around the corner to sit down and do an interview.
I don't know. They've had every other SEC head coach hovering around 3HL.
Yeah, she's going to be in her living
Lane
room.
might just swoop down out of the sky, stop by Dawn Davenport's house for an interview.
I got to go, guys. Sam Pittman's in my living room.
I mean, I don't know. She knows a lot of football coaches.
Recruiting never stops.
She is going to recap SEC Media Days, talk about the biggest observations from not just the interviews that they did, but the press conferences that they attended, coming up next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, 615-737-1045. Jump in on the phone lines if you want. Dawn Davenport will soon join us via the phone, and we will recap everything that she learned and the 3HL crew was able to cover down in Dallas for SEC Media Days. Side note, non-sports division. I just got a random DM from somebody named Matt Wilson offering me a free ticket courtesy of the Bitcoin Advocacy Project. You want to go to a Bitcoin conference?
Click the link. Do it. Do it.
Don't they? It's responding to a post that I put up about if you had to leave Nashville in 1 month, what would be on your Nashville bucket list? And I said, and somebody posted, go downtown and punch one of the Nazis. That's in response to that. They offered me a free ticket to the Bitcoin conference. So you think it's real? You think we should go?
No, I won't be there.
Okay.
While we wait on Dawn, the All-SEC preseason first team, second team, and third team have come out.
Oh.
So that's where Jackson broke the news that the SEC officially recognizes Tennessee as UT and Texas as Tex.
Eat it.
How many? Oh. You got me on that. How many Tennessee players do you think are on the preseason first team All-SEC offense?
Offense.
Start with offense. Just say how many?
One.
Who do you think it is?
The left tackle.
Not Lance Hurd. It is Cooper Mays.
Okay.
Cooper Mays, the center. And on defense, how many?
One. James Pierce. Okay. So that's
right.
The SEC, or all SEC preseason rankings is voted on by what? SEC Media?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Well, Dawn Davenport is part of SEC Media. She's been covering it enough down in Dallas. So instead of letting her relax on her day back or her first day back in Nashville, we thought we'd bother her and ask her for all the things that she learned so that she can make us on our show sound smarter. Hello, Dawn.
Hi, boys. I figured from our last conversation that got cut off short because I was like, oh, there's Coach, I got to go. I owed you guys one. What do you think?
Well, yes, we will always take advantage of your good heart to make us lazier and not have to do our actual radio show instead of outsourcing to you. So yes, we'll take advantage of your kindness that way.
Okay, there you go. I know. We got to get you into some more SEC talk, Buck. You know.
No, yeah. Listen, Dawn, you're doing the Lord's work down there, so I don't have to do the SEC Media Day thing.
Oh, it was such a burden, Dawn. It was such a burden for him to have to do it last year.
Yes,
I know,
it was.
Right?
It was a burden.
Such a hard job we have.
It's fine. 3HL's better at it.
That's true.
3HL's way better at it than we are. So again, we defer to 3HL and let them thrive.
There you go. I like that. I like it. It was, I will say this. You guys know I'm like, Nashville's the best. It's always the best setup. Like, we should have every single event ever known to man in our city because we do it all the best. But I will say this. Dallas was a really great setup. SEC did a great job. Obviously, Texas and Oklahoma coming in, but like the setup, there was plenty of space. We had natural light coming in, it was just, I felt like it was a really good week. And although I will say this, I thought it was kind of boring from a standpoint of there wasn't any like Drinkowitz, mic drops or really Kiffin mic drop. There, I didn't feel like there was like the, oh, wow, how about that statement that went viral,
Dawn, I have Drinkwitz at a podium talking about a player has STIs and talking about, what was it, strength, toughness, and
intensity.
Some intensity, and not understanding that people are going to refer to that as
instinct, not intensity.
A sexually transmitted infection or something like that.
Oh, Lord, good old Drink. How boring was Drink, though? You know what that means.
He's just looking for something to say at that point.
No, it means his team is really damn good this year.
Uh-oh. Yeah, scary. So boring.
Yeah,
so is that how you view it, as somebody who deals with these people on a sideline on a regular basis? The more boring they are, the more that they're trying to keep their cards close to the chest?
100%.
Yeah.
Especially with Drink, because, and I've said this for years, I worked one of his games when he beat Kentucky early on in his career when they weren't supposed to and they weren't that great, and he has swagger and ego and confidence and all those things. In our post-game interview, he said some like some stuff that I was like, well, that probably would be frowned upon by the SEC. But he's always been that guy to like say something. I mean, you saw his handshake with Heupel. We stand on business last year. That's drink. So the fact that he was like super quiet and very serious and all of that, to me, I take that he likes his team. He knows they're really good. He knows that they're going to do something this year. And so he's like, I'm not going to mess with the energy that I got right now.
Dawn Davenport, 3HL 3 to 6. Of course, you can check out all the great interviews that they did via the podcast of 3HL or on the Zone's YouTube page where you can find the best of them.
Dawn, when it's talking season, I try to kind of put myself into the shoes of different SEC fan bases and think, okay, what would I be particularly excited about if I was a fan of this team? Like for your alma mater, if I was an Auburn fan, I think I'd be really, really excited about Jarquez Hunter potentially being one of the best running backs in the league this year and what that run game could mean for Peyton Thorne, the quarterback. For you, though, is there a team?
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Hell yes. You are correct. And nobody is talking about Quez. Nobody. We ran into Coach Freeze, which I know him from his days at Ole Miss. That's actually how I got to know Chris Lowe. Is like early in my career. This will tell you how long ago it was. It was the A.J. Brown signing class for Ole Miss, and I worked it for ESPN on the TV side. Chris Lowe worked it on the writing side for ESPN, and so that's how I really got to know Coach Freeze, and he let us in on everything. We were at like dinners the night before. There's phone calls going around. I mean, we're listening to all of these assistant coaches talk to moms and dads and player. I mean, Coach gave us the absolute 100% come into our war room and you'll get to see all of it. So that's how I got to know Coach Freeze in the first place. And Chris Lowe, honestly. But so we ran into him the night before. He came in early for the first time. Usually they come day of. He came in the night before, ran into him at dinner. So we sat and chatted with him forever. And that was one of the things he said. He's like, people are not talking about Jarquez Hunter, and it's crazy to me. And he's right. Like, as an Auburn person, I was not sold at, and this is me from my fan perspective, right? And of course I told you this. I'm like, listen, this fan base ain't sold on Peyton Thorne, period. And he brought up Quez and was like, I don't understand why people aren't talking about him. Look what he did last year. Look at Hughes' offense. Hughes is back to calling the plays. He's going to run this offense. And he was like, that this offense is predicated on the run, right? Run the ball, stretch the field, whatever. And so Hunter's going to be a massive part of that. And then on top of it, they fixed the wide receiver position. And I worked that bowl game, that Maryland-Auburn bowl game last year, and there was not a single receiver that ever separated or was open. And I'm not trying to knock the guys that were there. Like, there's a bunch of different reasons, right? But they have 4 new wideouts. Of course, the freshman Cam Coleman is what everybody wants to talk about. But, you got to bring up Sam Jackson, who's Peyton Thorne's best friend, played in high school together, played quarterback at the collegiate level, and is now a wide receiver. So, he knows timing. He knows spacing. He knows a lot of things that maybe the receivers didn't in the past. And Peyton Thorne talked, not knocking his receivers, but he talked about how important it was in route running from his receivers to be where they're supposed to be, as in they weren't last year. So with Hunter, with that run game, with Valdo, the tight end, I think Hugh for some reason is sold on Peyton Thorne. Like, he thinks he's going to be good enough with what they've surrounded him with this year. So as an Auburn fan, and if you're a sports bettor, I would go over. You look at the over-under on Auburn, I'm like, I think they're going to be a lot better than what people think. Now, defensively in the fourth quarter, can they hang? Who knows? They're not deep enough. You know how Tennessee fans understand how that rebuilding process works, right? But I think Auburn's going to surprise some people this year, and I think Coach Freeze knows it.
Yeah, 7.5 is the over-under, at least on FanDuel Sportsbook for Auburn. But and maybe that's your answer to my question, because it was going to be, is there a team or an aspect of a team that you left unexpectedly excited about after media days?
Well, okay. I don't know if I can use the word excited, because, yes, on the Auburn front, but part of that is because I'm an alum, too. You know what I mean? So I can say, yes, Auburn, excited about that and what they have. And just listening to Peyton talk. Definitely excited about that. But another team that I think people are just ignoring, which we always do, and that's Stoops in Kentucky. I mean, Barry Brown is different, right? Everybody knows him, Pearl-Cone Firebird. They've got Dane Key coming back. They have a transfer quarterback, and that's the huge question. But Brock Vandegrift is a transfer in, and he sat behind two of the best quarterbacks in the SEC now, and it's Stetson Bennett, but you know what I mean, was one of them. But so who knows if he's legit? Like, I think Kentucky can probably surprise some people. And we had Stoops on, and I was like, Coach, nobody's talking about your team. And of course he interrupts me, and he's like, Dawn, one, do you think I care? And two, do you think they ever do? I'm like, you're right. You remember those 10-win seasons? Nobody talked about Kentucky, and here comes Mark Stoops and his team, So he talked about needing to up the tempo offensively, and so the hiring of this new OC in Bush Hamden from Boise State, I think, is going to do that. It's kind of it's putting together maybe a little bit of the pro-style offense, but then also look at Josh Heupel tempo-wise. You know what I mean? So it's going to be different. So I would say maybe, and I'm not talking they're going to win the SEC. Don't get me wrong. Don't quote me saying crazy things.
I will, but I mean, regardless of whether you tell me to or not, I'm going to do it.
The tweet's already been sent.
It's done.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Yes. No. But I do. I think Kentucky is going to be better than people think. And I also think Tennessee is going to be better than Vegas thinks. I really do. I thought Heupel was very confident in what he has. Now, he gave us the warning. I don't know if you guys heard him with us. He kind of gave the warning about Nico. Like, hey, remember, he's young. He's going to make his mistakes. But if you look at how their schedule kind of stacks up, you're hoping his mistakes are done early, and by the end of the season, they're really rolling when they are at Georgia, when they get Alabama. We'll see, but I think Tennessee, especially defensively, they're going to be so much better than they were.
To your point about Tennessee, Dawn Davenport, 3HL, 3 to 6, you can hear them on this afternoon. Of course, check out the podcast for all the SEC Media Days interviews that they did, as well as the Zone YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe while you're there. To your point about Tennessee, Lucas pulled up the SEC preseason voting, how they think teams are going to finish, and collectively, Tennessee came in at 7th. That is with no players on the all-SEC second or third teams. They have one player on offense, correct, Lucas, and Cooper Mays, and one player on defense in James Pierce, who's thought of as coming into this season as a pretty resoundingly first-round pick in the NFL. Is there any better bulletin board material that you can use while also downplaying external expectations and saying, look at this, they picked the 7th, let's go prove them wrong?
Yeah, I mean, that surprised me, honestly. And especially, you look at Brew McCoy, I think there's questions about Brew McCoy, obviously, right, with injury and all that, so maybe that's part of it. But I just think with offensive line, what they have, Lance Hurd is going to be a monster. We talked to Jacob Hester, who is Mr. LSU, fullback, bring the fullback back, right? Anyway, so we talked to him.
No, I don't want fullbacks. I don't want them anywhere near football. Get them out of here.
He hates joy, Don.
No, I like wide receivers. I like touchdowns. I don't like 4-yard gains. I've lived that life. I don't want to do it again, Dawn.
You're such a millennial.
That's right.
No, but he talked about Lance Hurd, and he's like, people don't understand. 5-star recruit, LSU guy. The only reason he transferred is because they couldn't get him on the field. Like, LSU has all of their starters on the offensive line back this year. And you're talking like NFL draft pick starters, right? So he's going to be able to step in right away at that position. You've got Cooper. We know Cooper communication-wise. By the way, he was super impressive to sit down and talk to. I really liked him. And so I think offensive line going to provide that protection for Nico. I think people don't realize what Brew is going to be. And then defensively, you mentioned James Pierce Jr., but up front, like those guys, I think are way better than people are giving them credit for. And you know how much that's going to help the back end of this defense, which has been a struggle the last few years. And even Josh Heupel talking about people don't realize what we walked into when you talk about depth and all of that on the defensive side of the ball. And I think he finally feels like they're in a better place. And I don't think you can overlook the fact that Keenan Peely is back. Just his mentality. I mean, he's 26, 27 years old, like leadership, married, different cat. Like he's just a different cat. So I think the defense is going to be better. And I think people in a weird way are overlooking Tennessee this year. And I can't believe I'm saying that because you guys know Tennessee fans think I hate the Vols. I mean,
you do famously. That's
yes. Yeah, clearly.
Famously.
But I really feel good about their team this year. It's all going to depend on how fast Nico can mature. And mature is not the right word because I think he's a really mature kid for what he is, and he's handled the spotlight and NIL and all of that extremely well, according to everybody on campus there. But on the field, it will depend on really how he handles it. But I even felt, Lucas, you probably saw this too, watching that bowl game, that offense operated differently already with him in charge.
Don, I thought was better than the way they operated in that Orange Bowl win with Joe Milton at the end of that season.
And we were all using that to prop up Milton afterwards, for sure.
But just in terms of the down-to-down operation of things, I thought Nico's sample size against a better defense in Iowa was better than what Joe did against Clemson.
And the speed of what the offense ran. I saw the difference in that. I felt the tempo, the speed, what Josh Heupel wants to do offensively was different. He's going to be calling plays, obviously. I mean, I think that this offense can run more efficiently and better. Nico's going to have his bumps because he's young, but I really do. I like what they have. And here's another thing, too. We always talk about the tempo and the speed for Tennessee, how hard it is to deal with on the other side of the ball. We have in-helmet communication this year for the first time, too. How much will that affect what they're able to do and how fast they're able to go and what Heupel wants to do? That's going to play in for a lot of teams, too, I think.
One more for you on the way out the door. Noted Vol hater Don Davenport, 3HL 3-6, here with us on 104.5 The Zone. You obviously NFL teams, they draft a lot of SEC players. So when you talk to SEC people and SEC players, a lot of them have NFL connections. Of the Titans intel that you were able to pick up from your many interviews at SEC Media Days, what was the best nugget that you would advise people to go check out?
As far as potential NFL player?
Well, no, in like talking to Stoops about Will Levis or talking to Texas players about Tavondre Sweat, what do Titans fans who may not have expected to learn anything about their team from SEC Media Days, what might they seek out from your guys' interviews?
Yeah, you know what? I thought, Stoops was great on Levis because if you guys know Stoops, he's not a heap praise on anybody kind of guy, period. He just never does it. That's not his style. He's Mark, he doesn't do that. So definitely go listen to his talk about Will Levis and his arm strength and just, the way he can operate an offense. And he brought back that junior year, which I actually saw him in person with Liam Cohen in charge. And he was like, that is a very similar offensive scheme to what you are about to see from the Titans. He was like, because you go back to all the ties. As far as offensive scheme. So that stood out with Stoops talking about Levis and how he thinks he's going to be really successful this year in that offense with him being the dude from the get-go. And then we asked a bunch of Texas people about Tavondre Sweat. And honestly, it was kind of, I talked to the players about him a lot. It was kind of mixed reviews, which is interesting because now, first of all, he's a dog, period, and they all said that, and that he can wreck a defense and all of those things, right? Wreck an offense, all of those things. But definitely from a personality standpoint, he turns guys on or off. I don't think there's in between. But it's interesting to talk to Ron Slay about it, too, because Slay said, my competitive thing in the middle of a game was to talk smack. That's what I did, right? That's how I handled pressure and big moments. I was a smack talker. I think T'Vondre Sweat, the way he handled pressure and big moments and his competitiveness came off as maybe playing around a little bit, if that makes sense, like having fun or saying, throwing a joke out there in the middle of a huge fourth down stop they had to get. That was his style and how he did it, which some guys loved because it kind of chilled and mellowed the moment, and some guys did not love. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No, for sure. Because Dawn, I had the conversation yesterday because we played the clip of I think it was the defensive back that you guys spoke to, and
he doesn't know who Sade is. Also, Dawn, please ridicule him.
You don't know who? What? You don't?
I don't know who anybody is, Dawn. I know songs. I know how they sound. I don't know who sings them. That's
Sade.
Okay. Well, listen. I'm not known for my pop culture repertoire. All right. I'll defer to you guys on that.
That's like the whole reason you're here.
Shut up. My point is.
Fair enough. Yeah.
with the personality, though, Dawn.
John Day's one that stood out to me, honestly, and talking to him about it.
Well, and I think we had this conversation amongst ourselves yesterday after we played the clip. Arden Key is a personality that I think can be polarizing, and now it's looked at as a plus, where at the beginning of his career, it definitely wasn't. Now, I'm not saying that, Arden had the same kind of partying background that famously T'Vondre Sweat does, but I think that those are kind of interesting parallels to look at as how different locker rooms handle different personalities. Anyway, we've gone
during game.
Yeah, absolutely during games.
But that's his, and I don't want to say defense mechanism, but that's how he calmed himself in a competitive moment. That everybody's different, right?
Yeah. Dawn Davenport, 3 to 6. They've been working hard all week long. They're going to finish the week strong today on Friday. You can hear her, Slay, and everybody's back, right, Brent? Everybody's here?
Everybody's back.
Everybody's back. 3 to 6, 3HL 1045 The Zone. Thank you, Dawn. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you at camp next week, ready to sweat.
Not really though. Weather looks favorable. Knock on something, because it's right now. Right now we're okay. Thank you, Dawn.
All right.
It's Dawn Davenport. Would you fade her down? Are you tired of listening to Dawn?
No, I just thought we were done.
Disrespect. Polls next. really thought you were going to try and shame me with some Sade coming back here instead of Boogie Shoes, but that means it's the end of the week?
Yeah, we don't break tradition.
We break tradition all the time. The only tradition that we uphold proudly is how bad we are on a regular basis.
And Boogie Shoes on a Friday.
That too. Vibes
After
are
we have
good.
to
Brad
pick off
Hopkins
Kanye.
and Joe Hunk coming up next, so they will continue to keep you entertained through your Friday. Last call for phone calls. If you got them, 615-737-1045. It's being alleged that because of the level of that we are the most Caucasian show, first and foremost, around here, and that the color of skin is why I'm unfamiliar with Sade. It's just ignorance. That's all it is. Jackson and Lucas are perfectly capable of understanding the depths of the catalog of Sade. It's just me. And Slay is now yelling at me in the F&M Bank chat because apparently he walked down the aisle at the wedding that I attended.
Yes.
For him and his lovely bride, Chris.
He's upset with you on this one, and I agree with him.
Okay, I'm upset with him because it took him 30 damn minutes to get down the aisle. I don't know what 6 songs played during his walk-up.
Give the man his moment.
No, please. You think Slay didn't have his moment at his wedding? Come on. Play some damn poll so I could go home. Yeah. Thank you. It's the same face I make every time you're talking, making fart jokes and doing whatever the fuck else you do back there. You're just so lucky people can't lip read.
The polls are presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. What is your primary concern, if any, about Brian Callahan as a first-time play caller? Mr. Donkey on Twitter says that first downs will no longer be a running play to the right side of the line. I'll miss that. Can't tell if there's a touch of sarcasm
Will
there.
you? I won't. I won't miss first down runs. I won't miss 2nd and 10 runs. I hope that they at least absolve themselves of that proud Titans tradition.
Brian says, I have FTSD from cute offensive play calls that flopped. It's a tough game. There needs to be tough options. Be fancy. Fine. That's a welcoming change, he says. But don't forget Gibbs, Parcells, Cower quotes. There will be short yardage, tough scenarios.
What does that acronym stand for?
I guess instead of PTSD, it's FTSD for a fan.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
Fan traumatic stress disorder.
That makes sense.
We call that BTS around here.
BTS, indeed. Battered Titan syndrome. It's
Not
alive
the
and well.
K-pop band.
Huh?
Not the K-pop
Not
band.
the world famous K-pop band. Yes. Brent says his concern is that it'll be too consuming for a first-time head coach, and he won't be able to focus on the other aspects in a game.
Yes.
That's it? That's all you got?
Yeah.
Okay.
What more do I need to have? It's 53. Keep it moving.
What was your
it's
biggest?
Friday. Come on.
What was your biggest?
You want to
takeaway?
hang out here more?
What was your biggest takeaway from SEC Media Days? Nash Tiger at 615 Auburn Sports on Twitter says that Lane Kiffin is sensitive.
No, he holds a grudge. I don't know if it's sensitive, and I thought, honestly, to Lucas's point, the larger context of the rest of that interview is necessary because it was a good interview, and they clearly enjoy one another. There's nothing wrong. It's just, people seize upon the opportunity to say, oh, look, Paul Feinbaum got roasted, or Lane Kiffin roasted Paul Feinbaum, or whatever you want to aggregate.
Karen says that Sam Pittman's on the hot seat. That's her biggest takeaway.
He was very defiant in his appearance with our buddy Chris Doring, who will be on the radio show on Monday as a matter of fact,
12:20,
where he said, Sam Pittman, I'm not done. I'm not finished yet.
How has the global cyber outage affected you? Mark says, hey, Buck, when will Windows be off IR?
Yeah, well, that joke won't die.
It's not funny, too. I just don't get it. Scott says, just flooding my timeline. Still working, unfortunately. I feel like that's how most people are kind of digesting this whole
Damn
thing.
it, why hasn't it impacted
why won't
me?
It get me a day off?
I would like to go home. I texted Robert, hopeful this morning. Do we have to work today? Has anything come crashing down around us? And I was disappointed to learn that indeed we had to work.
Doug says he's getting paid to watch the British Open while he waits for the main app that he uses for work to come back online. Elizabeth says, unfortunately, no, it hasn't affected her. She's currently at work. Mary Claire says it has not affected her, and she's very bitter about it. Mark said it did delay him 3 hours this morning until he could get some admin rights from his supervisor to apply the workaround. Now he needs to catch up on the 7 hours of work missed by a night shift last night.
I so badly hope that Coach Mack does not experience any of those logistical issues on his way back from Dallas.
Those are the polls.
All right, very good. That's the show. Brad Hopkins, Joe Hunk filling in for Blaine Bishop. They're coming up next. Have a great rest of your weekend. Tell Slay that I am proud in my ignorance of Sade.
Single line of smooth operator. Do it.
I couldn't even if I tried. Have a great weekend. In fact, fade down the Kendrick Lamar. Make him sing us out.
Shadow box and double cross. Maximum joy.
Jesus.